Deep in the far reaches of space, there's a moon called Lethe. This moon hides an entire city where nearly legless engineers lived and breathed, until there was a xenomorph infestation. This story is as old as time itself, but then in 2198, Weyland Yutani's Marines and a few good men and women encountered a cult of xenomorph sympathizers and advocates on Lethe, people who believe that the Xeno way is the only way. But that's not all. The worst and most dangerous of these findings was the Titan Xenomorph, a legless variant of the biomechanical minions of hell that crawled using its two large arms and struck you with its enormous secondary jaw. And in this video, I'll explore everything there is to know about the Titan. But before that, I think it would be prudent to explore the story of the 2023 game, Aliens: Dark Descent, where the Titan actually appeared. I mean, this would make things more comprehensive and easy to understand. Oh, and I have this very small request. Please consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons. Those two small clicks from you will help us tremendously in bringing you more of these marvelous videos. Now let's begin. The backstory. In 2198, the moon Lethe became the site of a new catastrophe when the shuttle Bentonville arrived here and landed at Pioneer Station. But the cargo was hiding more than it should have. Yep, it's an alien story, so you can imagine what must have been inside. Deputy Administrator Mayako Hayes notices the weight discrepancy and urges her superior, McDonald, to detain the ship and investigate the reason behind the said weight discrepancy. He, however, refuses, and soon the station is overwhelmed as xenomorphs pour out of the container. You see, someone had let them loose. Hayes encounters them directly in the docking bay, welding doors shut in a desperate attempt to contain the attack. Meanwhile, McDonald and the control staff fall victim to facehuggers. With no other choice, Hayes activates the Cerberus Protocol, Weyland Yutani's automated planetary quarantine measure that uses armed satellites, and Phase 2 of this protocol meant total annihilation. Anyway, the Bentonville and another ship, the Baldrin, were destroyed with everyone on board, while the military vessel Otago is crippled during the chaos and crash lands on Lethe. Hayes is rescued by Sergeant Jonas Harper and his colonial marines, who bring her back to the wrecked Otago. Harper deputizes her as his intelligence officer, putting her to work alongside his squad and the ship's remaining staff. The Marines' first major engagement is the Dead Hills settlement, where they eliminate a xenomorph queen that has nested beneath the colony. Their missions soon expand to Berkeley's docks, where they search for supplies to repair the Otago. There they encounter the Darwin era, a cult that reveres the xenomorphs as a higher evolutionary form. The group's presence adds another complication to an already dangerous situation. Back on the Otago, Hayes admits to Harper that she was responsible for activating Cerberus, which killed hundreds in order to prevent wider spread. Harper, though unhappy with her choice, continues to work with her. Together, they coordinate efforts with the crew, which includes Engineer Corrigan, Xenobiologist Becker, Chief Medical Officer Bookard, Psychologist Kabiri, and Armory Head Sergeant Martinez. Tracing the source of the alien cargo leads the Marines to Olduvai, which was Lethe's main trimonite refinery. Needless to say, trimonite is some sort of mineral or metal that Weyland Yutani finds profitable. It's in mines that they discover the cult's guardians, now these essentially altered humans who carry chestbursters, and because of this, the xenomorphs often ignore the guardians. The Marines also learn that the cult is linked to something called the Cassandra Project. Their leader, Joseph Marlowe, a former Weyland Yutani scientist, makes direct contact with Harper's squad and reveals Cassandra's importance to him. During one mission, Hayes sacrifices the Otago's last escape pod by using it as a makeshift missile to save the Marines before they're overwhelmed. Once back on the Otago, Harper discloses that Cassandra is his daughter, a fact that connects his past on Lethe to the current crisis. The Otago itself then comes under direct attack from xenomorphs, which the Marines fight off, but Harper begins experiencing painful visions whenever the aliens are near. Soon after, Barbara Price, Weyland Yutani's head of operations on Lethe, contacts them to inform them that the Cerberus has advanced to Phase 2, meaning full nuclear sterilization of the moon. The Marines launch an assault on Pioneer Station in an attempt to stop the process, successfully killing another queen, but they're unable to prevent the sterilization order. With limited time left, the Otago's crew begins urgent repairs on its hull, hypersleep systems, and defensive shields in preparation to break through the blockade. Price offers them the atmospheric processor's power core, as well as the chance to locate Cassandra and take her from Marlowe, in exchange for safe passage aboard the Otago. By the time the Marines raided the atmosphere processor, the mission had escalated far beyond repairs and scavenging. They tore out its power core, eliminated another queen, and secured an APC to aid their environment, but Sergeant Harper was visibly deteriorating. The squad next went after a hypersleep gas mixer chip, salvaged from the derelict USCSS Montero, an old M-class ship once tied to a rebellion against Weyland Yutani, which Harper himself had lived through. That detour brought back memories, but it also underlined how long Harper had been fighting corporate wars. His health, though, kept spiraling down. A Guardian infiltrated the Otago and confronted him directly, revealing that Joseph Marlowe's plans revolved around Cassandra. But why? Well, according to the cult, she possessed a telepathic link to the Xenomorph hive mind, the same connection that gave Harper his visions and was draining his strength. So yeah, although Alien Earth is telling us that the hybrid Wendy can in fact speak to the Xenomorphs, the seeds of this sort of communication were laid as far back as 2023, when Dark Descent was released. Moving on, before Harper could act, a chestburster erupted from him, ending his life. The Marines, now under mounting pressure, turned their focus on Price. She had dispatched her own team to track Cassandra, led by ex-Marine Theo Stern, deep in the Tantalus underground laboratory. Communication was cut, and the Marines infiltrated the facility to extract what they could. They found Stern alive, but old records revealed Cassandra had already been transferred elsewhere. As alarms flared and the lab's self-destruct kicked in, the squad escaped with Stern in tow. On the way, they captured Marlowe, only to discover that he was a synth duplicate. He confessed that Price had orchestrated the destruction of Tantalus and intended Stern's death to bury evidence. Unable to squeeze Cassandra's location from the duplicate, Harper, weak and faltering, destroyed the synthetic before slipping into unconsciousness. The Titan, an alien born from ancient engineer-like beings. Back on the Otago, Becker was desperate to clear his debts with Weyland Yutani, so Becker sabotaged the ship's defenses and released a Xenomorph warrior born from the captured Guardian. The creature tore through the crew, killing Bookhart. As mercenaries stormed the ship, Hayes fought back with the Ark, destroying enemy forces but losing the weapon when their gunship ruined it. Becker nearly ended her life at gunpoint, but the same Xenomorph turned on him. Hayes tricked the beast into the reactor as it powered back online, frying it and salvaging control of the ship. With Harper beyond treatment and Kabiri unable to replace Bookhart's expertise, Hayes pressed on with Stern to confront Price directly. At Pharaoh's Spire, Weyland Yutani's stronghold on Lethe, Price finally cracked under pressure, revealing that Marlowe's true operations were buried beneath Olduvai in an ancient alien city. She tried bargaining her way into the Otago, but Hayes dismissed her as less human than a synth and left her behind as Xenomorphs flooded the facility. While Cerberus Protocol's second stage was nearing, Hayes, weighed down by guilt for her role in Weyland Yutani's atrocities, resolved to strike at Marlowe City and rescue Cassandra. Fortunately, the Otago was now patched and armed. It took flight again and launched the Marines into one final offensive. They overran cultists, destroyed another queen, and carved a path underground. Hayes, Stern, and Martinez pushed deeper into the ruins, where they stumbled onto mummified remains of an ancient worm-like species, massive eggs, and the corpse of the real Marlowe, long dead from a chestburster. The facility was crawling with synth duplicates he had built to carry on his Cassandra project, but none had his mind. At the deepest part of the labyrinth, they found Cassandra and freed her, but all was not well, since the whole rescue attempt came at a price. Their intrusion woke Titan, a gargantuan xenomorph spawned millennia earlier, when one of the ancient citizens had been impregnated by an oversized facehugger. And that's when we see our beast for the first time. So before I explore the Titan Xenomorph, let's quickly understand the host of this massive xenomorph variant. So the Titan was born from an ancient extraterrestrial creature, right? Now the thing is, this guy looks very engineer-like, complete with numerous tubes integrated into their anatomy, including one that runs into their mouth, which is very similar to the LV-426 space jockey. These skeletal giants, also called ancient citizens, are clearly engineer-related, and measure over 10 feet tall, with elongated craniums and spindly limbs. And you know what? Although their bodies were fused with technology, these beings had underdeveloped jaws and legs, almost skeletal pelvises, so they could very well be a distinct subspecies or caste of engineer. Unfortunately, the Lethe ancients succumbed to a xenomorph infestation. There are signs of a hive, and the remains indicate they were overrun. Wherever there's a discussion about the engineer homeworld, Lethe's name comes up, but let me assure you, this planet was simply one of the bases or colonies of the engineers or their offshoots, a place that eventually fell prey to Xenos. These guys are also very different from the engineers on Planet 4, the one that David attacks in Ridley Scott's later prequel movie. Those engineers were rather primitive and not really advanced, or at least they didn't want to overly depend on technology. Now, coming to the xenomorph that came out of one of these ancient citizens. The monster dwarfed any queen, and its very frame was a grotesque hybrid of its host anatomy and alien physiology. The Titan Xenomorph is pretty different from every other xenomorph we've encountered so far. Let me explain. So firstly, its massive size alone puts it beyond the scale of queens, while its physical features carried marks of its host species. Instead of fully developed hind legs, it dragged itself with clawed arms, and as I mentioned earlier, the ancient citizens themselves did not have regular humanoid legs. The Titan's elongated carapace resembled that of a queen, but its head could retract into the shell when dormant. Oh, and concept art confirms its head was based on that of an engineer's, while its hands that ended in claws were inspired from the claws of a big cat. Furthermore, its inner jaw branched into 4 prongs, snapping forward with lethal reach, and its armored mesoskeleton absorbed rounds of armor-piercing ammunition that would tear lesser xenomorphs apart. Nothing to be surprised by there. I mean, if you think about it, this guy was super huge, and it makes sense that his body was super strong. The thing about Xenos is that the longer they live, the more they seem to get stronger. I mean, it hasn't been confirmed yet, but for a xenomorph drone, he either dies a drone or lives long enough to become a queen, unless of course a royal facehugger is at play. But we know that multiple moltings have led drones to become praetorians, and in some instances even queens. Likewise, the Titan Xenomorph was alive for God knows how long, and that's precisely why it's gotten stronger. I mean, stronger than others like itself, if they ever existed. Now, moving on to the story, the Titan tore through its den, snapped Martinez's life away with its inner jaw, and crushed Dern in seconds. Hayes and Cassandra barely evaded its onslaught, cornered near an exit as the beast closed in. At the last moment, Harper reappeared, his body broken but his strange connection to the hive burning bright. He forced Titan into stillness, long enough for Hayes and Cassandra to slip past. The effort killed him, leaving Titan raging, but the women escaped in an elevator that lifted them clear of the city. So yeah, despite being strong and huge, it seems the Titan could not really escape a good old mind trick. Cassandra's rescue brought some relief, but Titan was still very much alive. Hayes carried Cassandra to safety, while the devastation of Cerberus' final blasts most likely buried Titan under fire and ruin. So that was the end of this magnificent monstrosity, but you know what? The alien universe has a plethora of these gems, from synthetic xenomorphs and people who finally eat xenomorphs, to king and queen mothers. The universe is waiting to be discovered by you, and Marvelous Videos is ready to help you in that quest. All you gotta do is stick around. That was all in this one, guys. See you next time. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.